Because he was weak, his friends abandoned him, but he was a god who kept his strength hidden. Yaguri is a loser child, stupid and pitiful, who is walking down a corridor full of dead bodies and bullets flying all over the place. He approaches a camera and queries the whereabouts of his caregiver, Asako. He keeps moving in the direction of the room, and the door unexpectedly opens. Asako is being held captive by a woman brandishing a gun. When Asako asks what she wants, the woman tells him to stop talking. Yaguri enters the room with joy, glad to see Asako. Yaguri is told by the woman to stay still or else she will blow Asako's brains out. Just as Asako is lamenting her injuries, something unexpected occurs. The woman falls to the ground, unconscious, as some waves appear. Yaguri just gives Asako a hug and says they should go back, leaving her bewildered. Tamachika, a classmate, wakes an older Yaguri from his slumber, appearing to be in a panic. Asking, "Who is she?" When he opens his eyes, he instantly recognizes her as the girl with the strange name. He recalls that they were on a class trip when he asked if they had arrived before taking a nap. Tamachika responds that they haven't, and advises him to check what's happening by waking up. Gadri turns to face his classmates, who are all dead in their pools of sauce. He asks what it is after noticing that one of them has a strange object pierced through it. When he chooses to glance outside the bus, he finds something encircling it. He believes it might be a large lizard or snake. He throws a random microphone he finds on the ground at the pierced man in an attempt to figure it out. It seems that while the dead are powerless to defend themselves, the object that pierced him begins to move. Once more focusing its attention outside the bus, Yogairai discovers that object is a massive wyvern. The monster decides to charge at the bus as it soars overhead, getting ready to unleash flames. Abruptly, Tamachika gives him a dejected hug. Yogairai's brain is rewired at that moment. His thoughts are altered when he feels a girl with a lot of plot twists gripping his arm. He says, "Die," and sets his mind to opening a door. The wyvern falls to the ground abruptly in the following second. When Yogairai reassures Tamachika that they are safe, she queries what is happening because she doesn't understand. As he tells her to calm down and tell him what happened, Yujiri takes out his console. She became irate and said that now was not the time to play video games, to which he responded in kind. She just tells him that he's garbage at video games after observing him play for a while and begins to give him advice. However, she quickly recognizes their predicament and says it's not the right moment. She affirms when he asks if she's feeling better. He instructs her to begin describing how they came to be in this predicament. According to Tamachika, their bus was traveling through the night without any care. But they ended up in this weird field after going through a tunnel. She even asked her friend if the outside was always like that since everyone was perplexed. But her friend was unable to respond. All of a sudden, a girl got on the bus and greeted everyone. She identified herself as the great sage's granddaughter, Xiong. Their teacher stood up to voice his displeasure, but the girl just shot him a quick glance. The girl then pretended to be indifferent, telling the children to stop acting silly and to settle down and pay attention. The girl told them not to annoy her, and they all froze in shock. If not, everyone would suffer from the same fate. She tells them that she has a 530,000 power level. The driver's head then appears and she says, "That was a joke," and she expected them to laugh. She understands that this isn't unfair, but in another world, things operate differently. She then makes the decision to give the pupils an explanation of everything. She called everyone to this meeting because she is seeking wise candidates. She discloses that a small number of sages rule this world. She therefore called them in order to appoint additional staff. She makes a magical gesture and holds out her hand. Tamachika closed her eyes, thinking they were all going to get blasted. However, she noticed several students glowing when she opened. She was one of the few people who didn't glow, though. Then, Xian discloses that she gave the glowing students the battle song version. On the screen, they ought to see a few logos as well. Perplexed, Tamachika asks her friend if she has seen anything. Her friend explains she sees some colorful letters that say status while touching the air with her fingers. Xian then discloses that this system, known as the gift, is exclusive to this world. And for the next month, everyone has to use it to try and become sages. Tamachika reaches up to pose a query. She says she didn't see any of the logos or glow. Shaun merely responds by telling her to deal with the fact that some people are not compatible. Tamachika is shocked, especially after learning from Xian that they will all be used as livestock to generate magical energy if no one turns into a sage. After that, Xian says that their first mission will begin in an hour, and they ought to make an effort to delay their extinction. Tamachika then turns to sit down, admitting that she doesn't understand anything her friend says as she walks away. On their screen, there are some mission-related details. It appears that their task is to flee from the approaching dragon. Tamachika denies the existence of anything resembling that. But one of the guys, Yazaki, tries to take charge. He says they ought to make an effort to understand the mission and the necessity of teamwork. They must therefore discuss their advantages and disadvantages. On pieces of paper, each person writes their name and statistics. Tamachika, however, discovers that she is one of the 4 pupils who didn't glow. But one of them is Yaguri, who is dozing off because, well, who cares? When they realize that everyone else has left the bus, they stop complaining about his carefree, drowsy hours. Tamachika stays behind to wake Yogairai up even though they both decide to go outside. They hear 2 guys fighting just as the other girl is trying to talk her out of leaving him. It turns out Yazaki will not allow the 4 to accompany them. Yazaki tells the delinquent to stop complaining because the general is his class. In an attempt to prove the power of a gift, he breaks the bus chairs and decides to become a douche. Even though he is only level 1, he is far more powerful than those 4 common humans. Yazaki is told by the other girl that they ought to be protected if he is strong. Yazaki responds, "But this is part of the plan." He instructs the girl by his side to use his gift as everyone looks on in confusion. She uses her charm power, which has no effect on anyone. Yazaki turns to leave, explaining that this ability makes her well liked by monsters. To put it briefly, there is a dragon nearby, and if you use that skill on them, the dragon will attack them, allowing the others to flee. And all of the gifted people made this choice. Tamachika finds it incomprehensible that her friend would turn on her. However, Yazaki admits that she did. Tamachika, though, is aware that Yuzuki had to have coerced her. After that, Yazaki goes outside and shuts the door. They attempt to leave it open for a little while until they hear a disturbance outside. Tamachika is convinced it's a dragon until something unexpectedly collides with the bus. When Tamachika sees the other guy taken out, the guy freaks out. Once everything has been explained, Yogairai sees that something is seriously wrong. There is no way in this world for him to recharge his console. Then he stands up and says that Yazaki says it's safe to go outside now. When Tamachika inquires as to whether Yaguri did anything, he responds that the dragon crashed to the ground and perished. They choose to escape through the window even though Yogairai knows it's a life-threatening situation because she can see that they can go to the city, the hills, or the forest. Then Tamachika notices that something is soaring through the heavens. She notices and determines that it's 3 of their classmates. Her long-range vision impresses Yogairai, who inquires as to whether he ought to kill them. She queries what mental illness does he have? Yogairai, however, merely responds, "They left them behind to die." Tamachika advises him not to discuss killing them. In response, Yogairai says that they might be antagonistic. The guys approach her, but she remains perplexed. Confusion also stems from the dragon's death. When one of them discovers that Tamachika is still alive, he bemoans the fact that he intended to transform her corpse into a zombie in order to indulge his wild side. That kind of wild, indeed. The guys converse among themselves. It's strange to be complaining about utilizing a corpse to turn it into a zombie. After hearing those remarks, Tamachika understands they are obviously not compatible. Abruptly, a massive fireball is thrown by one of the guys, narrowly missing Tamachika. The guys are still chatting among themselves. What if they improved their magic? And how the final one is a necromancer, the other a healer, and the third a hero. The person who launched the fireball then commands Tamachika to join him without opposition. Though she's perplexed by his request, the three just say they want to share their good times with her. Tamachika understands they're all chasing her corpse. She has the courage to say that, and Yogairai finds that impressive. That's why the necromancer guy is complaining. Although Yagiri seems to be getting too close to her, he just says he will handle even the conversation. He gestures for the fireball guy to go away. The other two laugh it off, but they're startled when they see the guy give the floor a random hug. When they ask what went wrong, Yogairai says he just gave the order for him to die. The necromancer tries to see how his friend is doing even though he orders them to stay put. He is told to die too by Yogairai. There is only Fatso left, and Yogairai threatens to kill him if he moves. Yogairai instructs Fatso to determine whether the other two are actually dead and makes a promise to explain his ability. Fatso agrees and applies his healing power, saying he can instantly heal anything. But his friends remain where they are. Tamachika knows that Yogairai killed the dragon, but he just refused to give an explanation for what had happened. When Yagiri tells her that Fatso is stupid and should give him a detailed explanation rather than her, she becomes enraged. Fatso gripes that Yagiri overreached himself. But our boy just says that he only did it because they were attempting to harm him. He goes on to say that his power is known as instant death to any target. He doesn't even have to tell people to die, in actuality. He just needs to give it some thought. After conceding defeat, Fatso makes an effort to approach Yagiri while feigning fear. However, he's getting ready to use magic to attack him. Yogairai, though, just tells him to stop. Yogairai clarifies to Fatso, who is perplexed, that he possesses the capacity to determine whether or not someone intends to murder him. Even worse, he has the ability to combine the two skills. To put it briefly, he doesn't have to know who is attempting to kill him. Fatso gives up in tears, and Yogairai queries their early arrogance. Following the acquisition of those abilities, Fatso goes on to say that this is the trio's second appearance on Earth. After vanquishing the demon world, they went back to their own realm. When Yagiri inquires about the three of them missing any classes, Tamachika responds that they hadn't. Fatso says that it had only been a few hours when they got home. Fatso begs Tamachika to assist Yagiri as he plans to kill him. In response, Tamachika says that Yagiri is the reason she is still alive. So he ought to take care of it. Pulling out an object, Fatso calls her cold and assures her that if she puts it on him, she will become her servant. To put it succinctly, he calls himself a slave. She tells him to stop acting like a pervert as he approaches her. She asks if there's a way to stop being his master as the caller begins to strangle him. Though she mentions that she can give it to someone else, Fatso complies with the directive. After she transfers to Yagiri, he chooses not to kill him. Fatso ought to go to the monster-filled forest and wait there instead. However, Fatso must leave all of his belongings behind and keep the Yagiri and Tamachika a secret from everyone. Tamachika queries if this is acceptable as Fatso complies with orders. Yagiri responds, Fatso will always turn them around. It's therefore preferable this way. Then she inquires as to whether he doesn't think she might turn him in. All Yagiri can say is that it is what it is. He is the one who chose to shield her, after all. She blushes and says they've never really spoken before, and she's not sure how to respond. Why did he choose to shield her, she wonders. At first, Yogairai responds. He acknowledges that, in response to Tamachika's persistent prodding, he doesn't know why, but it was all because of her well-developed, silky story. She complains that men are all the same, blushing and becoming enraged. Xian, meanwhile, is doing whatever it is in bed. A man arrives to report that the first mission was completed with 2 S ranks and 4 casualties, 2 of whom were unable to move. He notes that the S ranks perished abruptly and quickly, leading him to believe that instant death magic is to blame. She does, however, resurrect the possibility and head back to bed. Check out the following video. On to the next one, see you.